NBC 15's Cory Pippen was at tonight's showdown. Both candidates trying to sway voters, Cory.
Senator Luther Strange and Roy Moore addressed why they believe they're the right pick for voters come Election Day, but they couldn't resist taking shots at each other as well. It was a powerful show of solidarity for healthcare workers and first responders who are putting themselves in harm's way right now to save lives. We're on the second floor of the Phoenix condo parking garage, and we are really starting to see and feel some of the strongest impacts from Hurricane Sally yet. Mayor Sandy Stimson told me he was encouraged by the meeting with President Biden, but stopped short of saying anything was a done deal regarding the I-10 Mobile River Bridge project. The witness tells me he heard the children's cries for help and jumped into the water. That's when he said the victim did too and was swept under.
Cory, the FBI says a suspected murderer is now dead.
Kim, we just heard from a special agent with the FBI's Mobile division a few minutes ago. We learned that Toby Wiggins, a first-degree murder suspect wanted out of Charlotte, North Carolina, was shot to death by federal agents in this mobile home park. Residents here on Ellison Avenue had just moments to react as the tornado roared behind their homes, and this is by far the worst damage we have seen here in Creola. We're going to give you a look inside an 81-year-old man's home. He was actually inside here when the weather alerts went off, that tornado roaring in this area. As we said, the next thing he knew, a tree from his backyard crashed through the roof. We're now getting some strong rain with those heavy wind gusts that we've been experiencing all evening long. I want to show you what this wind has done here at the Beach Highway. The sand is actually overtaking the Beach Highway. Mobile police will be stepping up enforcement of an ordinance already on the books. Key Harbor residents and bystanders went door to door, making sure everyone knew there was a fire and they needed to get out. The United States hit a new record of coronavirus hospitalizations today. More than 90,000 Americans are spending Thanksgiving in the hospital battling the virus. Investigators say Anthony Warner blew himself up in the bombing and that he acted alone, but authorities say a motive is unclear. It's the calm before the storm, and the Gulf Coast will be impacted. NBC 15's chief meteorologist Alan Seals joins us now with a look at the latest forecast model. We've seen plenty of incredible video from yesterday's weather. This video comes to us from O'Neill Court in West Mobile. We like to think our mail is safe once we put it inside a post office drop box, but that isn't always the case. The problem lies here, where a multi-lane beach highway turns into a two-lane road, a dangerous situation. Locals continue to come here to the bridge underneath which Naomi's body was discovered days ago. This is absolutely tragic. Just take a look at what's left of the trailer here in the Resner Mobile Home Park of Highway 181. Imagine showing up to church and finding this. The steeple, weighing several tons, fell more than 5 stories off the roof, slamming into the ground. For those who have loved ones supposedly buried in this cemetery, the thought they may not actually be here at all has left them shocked and disgusted. Hightower had a lead in this race initially, but that changed as Mobile and Baldwin County results poured in. Ultimately, he conceded to Carl, down around 4,000 votes with about 80% of precincts reported. Wind gusts have gotten stronger and those rain bands continue to become more frequent. Take a look out here just over Mobile Bay. There's some ominous clouds and rain headed our direction right now. There could be as many as 5 different scenes, but the one behind me is where an armed suspect, according to authorities, was shot to death. They might have to find drugs or even take down a bad guy.
Hey, please stand up!
Can't get me. Voters this election made history not only by electing the oldest ever president and first female vice president, but by setting records in Congress too.
NBC 15's Cory Pippen questioned the chief about whether that secret document will ever see the light of day. Cory?
Kim, NBC 15 News has been asking for years to see the Mobile Police Department's policies and procedures, and so have other groups. Tonight, Chief Patisse says the release of their manual is being considered. Tonight, the policies and procedures that guide Mobile police officers day to day remain behind closed doors, despite requests by NBC 15 News and social activist groups.
The NAACP and the Alabama ACLU have requested this for over 2 years.
Tiffany Trotter is a member of the activist group Mobile for Us. They too have requested the documents, only to be denied.
The reason they refuse to give the police training manual is an issue of security, but it's an issue of security on both sides.
Trotter joined numerous residents with concerns today during a special meeting held by the Mobile City Council about police reform.
Our taxpayer dollars pay for your department. Why can I not know your tactics? For instance, if an officer feels justified in their actions, that's a very vague issue.
Council members say they will review the policies, but Councilman C.J. Small agreed police policies should be public knowledge.
I am having high hopes that the citizens of Mobile will get what they've been asking for.
Chief Batiste says the release of the policy manual is something the department is considering.
We're looking to see what other large departments our size are doing nationally. We're talking about a document that's well over 800 pages.
Chief Batiste says the release isn't necessarily an issue of security, and they don't have anything to hide.
Not all times does a layperson understand what they're reading in a policy, and so our goal is to try to make sure that we don't confuse the public about what they're reading.
If you want to be a major national player, which Mobile wants to be, then they need to be transparent on all aspects.
Chief Batiste says the department has released individual policies in the past. If the manual is released, Chief Batiste says it will likely be done on the police department's website. Brett LaGrave tells me he was less than 10 yards away as protesters broke into the Capitol building, but he says all of that began minutes earlier after a clash with police. This is video of the scene outside the Capitol building today, shot by Mobile resident Brett LaGrave as he stood among the crowd of Trump supporters protesting the presidential election results.
When everybody was up around the Capitol and we were all standing there, it was something out of a movie.
But that movie-like moment came with a twist LaGrave never expected. As moments later, some protesters stormed the building, leaving several police officers injured and one woman dead. LaGrave says he didn't see signs of what would come during a preceding rally and march.
The feeling of the group as we were walking was quiet. Everybody was completely silent, just walking with their flags. Families, children.
Once at the Capitol, LaGrave says tensions began flaring when police responded with force.
Me and the person I was with, I said, I think we need to get off of this little main drag. This feels like we're cattle, like we're sheep being led to the slaughter here. So, and I was pretty much right. They shot rubber bullets and tear gas into that crowd a few minutes later.
LaGrave says police pulled back and protesters pushed forward, many making it onto the steps and some breaking their way inside.
I didn't go in, so I didn't know what happened on the inside. But breaking into the property, stealing things, that shouldn't be done. Those people should be held accountable for their actions.
LaGrave told me he doesn't know why things turned violent, but he doesn't blame the president.
He said peaceful. Go back and look several times. He wasn't instigating any violence that I could tell.
Despite everything that happened today, LaGrave says he's not afraid and plans to attend future rallies at the Capitol if they're held. I rode along today as one homeowner visited her waterfront house by boat. The flooding has gone down slightly, but we're still talking about nearly 10 feet of water throughout this neighborhood.
We're at 9 foot of water, 9.4 right now.
Wow.
This is where the road bed is.
This is Joyce Overstreet's first visit to her Stockton home in nearly a week. It's a trip she must now make by boat, getting dropped off at the top of her steps each time, as floodwaters from the Tensas River remain inches from her front porch at Upper Bryant's Landing.
I was trying to remember that it's just stuff that could be replaced if we did flood on the inside.
Today, Overstreet got a lift from her brother Ricky. Like most homeowners in the neighborhood, she evacuated as waters kept rising and power was cut off for safety reasons.
She stays with me during high water, and we did a lot of praying. It's just unreal, though, to ride down through here and see it.
Flooding isn't new here, but residents say this is the worst they've ever seen. And while the waters are still high enough to swallow an RV, they've gone down several inches.
It's a huge relief. You don't want to replace floors. You don't want to have to clean up, and we're going to have to bail the cats out, too.
But once the waters go down completely, the real work will begin.
It'd be 2 or 3 inches of mud on the slabs.
Cleanup's going to be a job for a lot of folks.
And for some folks, it might already be too late. A few homes at the landing appear to have water inside.
I do feel for our neighbors because it's just a mess. So whenever our neighbors need help, I hope that we'll all pitch in and give them a hand.
Marine Patrol officials are still encouraging boaters traveling through this area to do so slowly and use caution. Baldwin County EMA officials expect the water to begin receding sometime this weekend. The Robertsdale community is showing fallen hero Robert Sikora's family that his service and sacrifice for our country decades ago isn't and never will be forgotten.
He died a hero, and the honor he's getting now, it just all comes together.
Your honor, please.
For Glenn Sikora, placing this flag among the thousands outside Robertsdale High School, each honoring a Vietnam War casualty, is an emotional tribute to his oldest brother, Robert, who lost his life at only 26 years old.
It was actually my 14th birthday party when the service knocked on the door and told us what happened, so I'll never forget that day.
Lieutenant Junior Grade Sikora served years in the Navy. His plane was shot down near Japan in 1969. Today, Sikora's family, including his 99-year-old mother, gathered with his former RHS classmates from 1961, who organized a memorial and dedicated a plaque in the school to former students killed while on active duty.
It brought us closer to the Sikora family because we didn't know them in high school. The first name on that board is Robert J. Sikora.
Sikora's family says he was never officially honored by the military as a Vietnam War casualty because it was considered a separate incident.
And that flag, when I put it in the ground and looked out at all these other flags that Robertsdale put out, it was closure.
I'm told Robertsdale High School plans to continue adding names to the plaque and encourages anyone who knows of a former student who died while in active duty to notify them.
Cory Pippen spoke to Escambia County's EMS manager about what he saw that day and the department's role in saving countless lives. Cory?
Well, Greg, Kim, Jimmy Madry worked for hours with other first responders last Friday, helping save the lives of those shot here at NAS Pensacola.
It felt like a movie. It felt surreal.
Jimmy Madry, Escambia County EMS manager, was on duty Friday morning shortly before 7 when the first calls came in to dispatch. The unthinkable, a mass shooting unfolding at NAS Pensacola.
Initially, it was a little bit of tension in the air. Any type of call like that kind of heightens your awareness.
Radio transmissions from law enforcement detailed the horrific scene awaiting first responders.
I had one black male shot in the leg by the femoral artery, and I had one Navy officer shot up here multiple times.
The department jumped into action, Madry says, sending out 7 ambulances, calling in nearly 24 additional EMS personnel, and coordinating with local hospitals. Madry responded too, working with other first responders from a staging area not far from where the gunman opened fire in Building 633.
All the different agencies that were on scene worked hand in hand. The helicopters were landing in the parade field just off to the side of the scene.
Tragically, 3 people were killed, but Madry says without everyone's help, it could have been worse.
I couldn't be any more proud of my guys that actually took care of the patients that were on scene. If some of the men and women hadn't provided the very treatments that they had, the toll would have been a little higher.
Madry says he approached the situation like any other 911 call, but now it's sinking in.
This is the kind of stuff you read about in the papers. This is the kind of stuff you see on TV and in the movies. You never really think this is going to hit home. It does.
Madry says Santa Rosa County EMS also assisted on scene and provided additional coverage here in Escambia County. He says his thoughts go out to all the families affected by this tragedy. Reporting live in Pensacola tonight, I'm Cory Pippen, NBC 15 News.